All right, technical challenges, but we are live. I don't think you want to hear the theme twice, but that's all right. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I'd like to say your blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we're broadcasting live on a very cold December 14th, almost halfway through the month. I guess for those people that celebrate the Christmas thing, there's like 10 and a little 10 plus, a little plus over 10 days before we get things hopping. And as always, I co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care, and being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And you are watching Black Canada Talking with my good associate, Cesar Ndema-Moussa, where we take looks at and gives takes, POVs, our thoughts on stories local, country, international, whatever's going on. And I'm joined by Cesar. So what is up, Cesar?
Vibe, brothers and sisters and allies. Thank you always for having me. I'm good. Indeed, as you said, it is cold,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Canada. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Dubai. It was also winter, but their winter is 20 to 30 degrees.
Yeah. Winter in their context and winter in our context are two totally different things. Do you miss being in Dubai?
I do, but as in many things, it's a matter of perspectives. When they're for a purpose, back to my family, back to my work, and my community. I will be back, but all in good measure.
100%, 100%. What have you been up to since, other than Dubai, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Well, basically working, as you can imagine, and working and traveling, addressing notably issues of identity, value, and example, in 2 days, Tuesday, giving my last day-long presentation on welcoming and servicing newcomers, aka immigrants, in rural areas. Um, Interestingly, one of the things I address is to address some of the stereotypes and cliches of education. So I will notably educate them on angels and demons, as just as I will educate them, of course, on racism, but also immigration and settlement services. It is all connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, we're gonna keep our intro sort of short because there's a number of things, and I want to give Cesar a lot because there's always a lot of important conversations that we want to chat about today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do some housekeeping, and we'll get right into our conversations. We'll be back in about 90 seconds.
Check out The Morning Vibe on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel with Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight, where they discuss important subjects between themselves or have conversations with people who you need to know about.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. Hope you are fine and safe. I'm just doing a little short video showing you the feature where you can call in when we're doing a live show. And I've said it many times on many of my shows, but I said, you know what? Let me do a video and show you. This is the video. When you go to any browser, whether you're using your smartphone, desktop, laptop, whatever digital device, and you go to callme.ro.com, which is here. Also, too, most of the time when I'm doing a broadcast, there will be a QR code that I will show. So whether it's QR code or you're going through some digital device, this is where we're at, callme.ro.com. Then what you want to do is put in this code, FSPL8L. Now, once you put that in, you hit continue. And once you go into continue, you want to make sure that you have echo cancellation in green and mic gain in green. And then all you need to do is put in your name, and I'm going to put Dr. Vibe here. I need to spell it correctly. Dr. Vibe. And then once you've done that, all you need to do is click on join call. And that's it. Looking forward to having you call in. I just wanted to show a video because I know you want to call in, but I tell you, but I want to show you. So looking forward to hearing you live on the Dr. Vibe Show. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good. Okay, we are back, and let's get down to some stuff here. As always, you're watching Black Canada Talking with myself, Dr. Vibes, and Cesar Ndema-Moussa. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button, because I know a lot of people watch this, but you don't subscribe. So if you're out to it, please subscribe. It would be much appreciated. Also, follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And can never forget our good friend Dr. Tachi, driving force behind Indie Suit Media, independent content creators platform, with about, well, it's over 28,000 YouTube subscribers, which is huge, because remember, only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to say, and 10% of YouTube channels have 1,000 subscribers. So I'm in the second category, not in the first, unfortunately, yet. But a lot of content that you see on my platforms are featured there. And then also, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, you can email him at president@rootsandculturecanada.com, and also on his email page, Cesar Remy Emery. And without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to get to our first story. So we'll give a little bit of a video to introduce it, and Cesar will come in and do it good. So here we go.
Are Africa's recent coups just power grabs, or are they a fight for liberation from Western influence? Since 2020, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Gabon have all seen military takeovers. Frustration with corruption, insecurity, and foreign involvement, especially from France and the CFA franc, fuels these shifts. Some juntas have expelled French troops, turned to Russia or China, and formed new alliances like the Alliance of Sahel States. But military rule brings real risks: sanctions, instability, and stalled progress. So what's next? These changes are reshaping regional alliances and challenging local populations to balance sovereignty, security, and democracy. Are these coups a step toward true independence, or just a new kind of control?
All right, so our first conversation piece for Cesar is Congo, Rwanda, Togo, and Benin. Pan-Africanism on the motherland. So Cesar, where do you want to go?
Okay, well, thank you. It's an important topic, as all the topics, of course. But I find it interesting, and I think our people worldwide have to pay attention to this one because, as some or many people may know, Donald Trump, who likes to claim that he has ended the 7, 8, or who knows how many wars, one of them is the conflict between Congo, RDC, Democratic Republic of Congo, aka the former Zaire, and Rwanda. And of course, this conflict is not ended. It is a conflict in which we can see Africa as a kind of 19th century, end of 19th century, the African cake, because underlying that conflict is the minerals. Since the end of the 90s, 1997, the fall of former dictator Mobutu, with notably China and the United States vying for the mineral reserves of Congo. But at the same time, we see a weak Congolese government, which is simply unable to safeguard its own borders and protect its people. To be quite honest, as we are speaking, there are Congolese right now who are fleeing Congo to find refuge in Burundi. And now Burundi is also being attacked, notably by the M23 militia, which is supported by Rwanda of President Paul Kagame. And meanwhile, in Congo, you have President Felix Tshisekedi, the son of a former leader against Mobutu, who he's such a weak leader, weak president. This is the African leader who came to the United States to go basically pay tribute to the AIPAC, aka the Jewish Zionist lobby in the White House and Congress, and also went to Jerusalem. Um, it is very much a reflection of the weakness, the failure of too many African states to truly safeguard and uphold themselves to what the population should expect from them, which, as you were showing in the video, drives so many to support military uprisings such as what we have seen successfully in the Sahel region of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. This is why you end up having a situation as in Benin, where a coup was attempted by military leaders. It failed. President Patrice Talon, interestingly, is an African leader who supports Pan-Africanism, who supports the reawakening of African spirituality. And even as the leader of Sahel, I don't want to get it mistaken, I'm thinking the leader of Burkina Faso, Captain Traoré, instituting notably a recognition of African spirituality, because the very conversations that we are having ultimately leads to a matter of self. Who and what we define as Africans, who and what we define as Black, because if you're not sure of what that is, you become an easier prey for those who aim at your natural resources. And it's not just China and the United States or France, as too often people imagine. Uh, you look at the continent, like, the conflict in Libya just as Sudan. I was in Dubai. The UAE is involved. You have Saudi Arabia, you have Turkey involved, really the African cake. So the coup in Benin failed. One of the most popular Pan-Africanists in the Francophone sphere, Kémy Séba, made quite an error in supporting the coup way, and with it failing, him being of Benin citizenship, it's not looking good for him. But it also reminds us of the fragility of democracy in Africa. And when I say fragility, let us be honest. This is not about democracy having to be the one and only form of government. When we see China and the UAE, to give it again as an example, and also Saudi Arabia, absolutely we can talk about autocracy because it is, but at the same time, most people vying for safety, vying for being able to feed the children, to send them to school, it begs to question if autocracy might not be the best form of government, at least for the moment for some. For all that, I will always support democracy in terms of the institutions, the value of the institutions, but you need that educated mass of people to be involved. This is where you end up having a situation such as when I talked about Togo. There was the International Pan Africanist Conference in Togo, but Togo is under the leadership of a dictator who is greatly contested. So you end up having a situation in which Africa as a continent find itself so not united, so divided in a world, a multipolar world of great blocks. Like you're looking at uh, the United States under Trump, basically rejecting the American Western Bloc doctrine, the EU being fragmented. But you see Russia and China making moves. You see the Gulf countries, the GCC, the Gulf Countries Cooperation. I forget exactly the acronym, but we are seeing an African continent. We are seeing the motherland failing, dividing itself. We're still talking about an Africa where you have religious wars. We hear about the Christians being killed, notably in Nigeria. What too often people forget, where you have Christians being killed, you also have a lot of Muslims being killed, African Muslims being killed. But there's little sympathy for the faith. We should absolutely sympathize for the killing of Christians. African Christians being killed are victims of colonization, but so are African Muslims, And so are African spiritualists who are also being killed, just as African atheists. So this is a reflection in terms of, no matter how cold it is, and as we are nearing a new year, to not forget that unfortunately, 2026 is close to us, but in many ways, the scars of slavery and colonization are indeed quite alive on the motherland.
All right. Thank you so much. Cesar, the the imperialists such as China, US, has their game plan changed over the decades and centuries? They're just, from my lens, they're just coming there to get the mineral economic wealth and not really help the citizens. Is that still the case? And is that still the case?
It is still the case, but the biggest failure, I don't blame them, to be honest. This may shock many people, but no, I don't blame them. People act according to their interests. So, just as to give the example of Europe facing threats of Islamism, but also Russia and China and America's bullying Europe, it is not so much that the other, aka the enemy, is so strong. It's that there is internalized weaknesses. There are internalized weaknesses when you have African officials who are so corrupt. They would rather enrich their bank accounts than to provide for the population. Talking about an African continent where you have the leaders of countries who are unwilling, and I'm speaking in general, this is not the case for each and every country. We are seeing great examples from the Sahel region, just as a few other countries, and I love to name Botswana as an example of African progress, but we can also talk about Mauritius, etc. But too often, you have populations that don't have sustainable health services such as a functioning hospital, and yet these leaders would rather bring their children and themselves to be treated in Europe, in North America, or in Saudi Arabia. And when you talk even about Africa as a whole, let's be honest. I was giving an example over the weekend about an African woman, I can't remember from what country, from Mali, who went to Morocco to give birth to 9 children. Meanwhile, you also have people from Morocco who are crossing over to go to Spain for hopes of a better life. It is a terrible cycle of chronic and systemic failure in which, despite what I said that the scars of slavery and colonization are still present, we have to be able to be honest and look at the fingers pointed back at those who are leaders on the continent and the populations. And of course, I'm not a hypocrite. I am born in Cameroon, but I didn't grow up in Cameroon. So even the diaspora must be part of the conversation for the change to occur. It's the same as when we talk about Caribbean countries, whether we're talking about the fate of Haiti or Jamaica or you name it, South America, Brazil as Venezuela, etc., Mexico. The diaspora is part of the conversation regarding leadership in the countries, the population in the countries, but also the diaspora.
Hmm, that's good. That's good. What do you? Well, just cycle back a bit. 47 saying he's resolved all these wars in in the continent.
Of course not. Of course not. But you see, you cannot blame Trump. Put yourself in the skin of Trump. If you have been able for decades to pretty much con the general public, and on top of that conning, and when I say conning, I'm talking about bankruptcies, notably failed casinos, but I'm also talking about being this culture icon, notably celebrated in hip hop, and yet his racism is flagrant. Where are all the rappers who used to celebrate him? Did they come back to denounce him publicly? Are they standing up to him? And then you get elected president, despite the lies, including that you lost the 2020 elections, but you get reelected, despite comments such as misogynistic comment regarding women and their genitals. allegations of sexual assault/rape. They talk about Haitians. I mean, this is, of course, morphing into a second topic, but put yourself in his place. Of course, you can claim and pretend anything and whatever. You, the star of that TV show, what was
The Apprentice.
where you telling people they're fired, and the producer of that show had come out to admit that they were making the show bigger than it was. They were correcting. Even the co-writer, the person who actually wrote Donald Trump's book, The Art of, admitting that they glossed up a lot of things. In many ways, Trump is a creature of the system, just as in our last topic, Sean Combs, aka Diddy, aka Puffy, is a creature of the system. You can call him a monster all you want, but this was a monster that was loved, beloved, and hailed by a system despite all the things that were known about him. So how can you be surprised that this man is now claiming that he stopped who knows how many wars? He deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and the FIFA. You know FIFA? Gianni Infantino
Yes.
was put there because of the corruption of Sepp Blatter.
Yep.
The Italian Gianni Infantino was put there greatly because of the corruption of the Swiss Sepp Blatter. And we are seeing in full face the corruption of Gianni Infantino giving this peace prize to Donald Trump in the name of business because the World Cup is coming to America. So this is, put yourself in the skin of Trump. I mean, to what extent can we blame the son of the king for being a self-entitled narcissist when literally he grew up as a prince his entire life?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. All right. Well, let's continue to our next conversation topic. And like the last one, we're going to be showing a little bit of a video introduction. So here we go.
What do Somalis in Minnesota and Venezuelans fleeing crisis have in common? Both became flashpoints in the era of Trumpism. In 2017, the Trump administration imposed travel restrictions on countries like Somalia, citing national security. At the same time, Trump's rhetoric targeted Somali communities in Minnesota, raising fears and tensions. Now, look at Venezuela. The U.S. hit Venezuela with sweeping sanctions and a maximum pressure campaign. As millions fled, Venezuelan migrants became central to U.S. immigration debates. Some received temporary protected status, but the issue remains divisive. Trumpism isn't just about policy, it's about how rhetoric and rules collide. So, what happens next for these communities?
47 is at it again. Is of course, whenever he needs to deflect, he always comes back to immigration and certain specific immigrants, and also looks like he's targeting to approach war on Venezuela. Cesar, take it for us.
Summary did it explain it very well, because indeed, as many ask, is this the latest distraction from the Epstein files? Always coming back to the Epstein files, as Trump greatly campaigned on the release of the Epstein files and the targeting of the so-called pedophiles, and yet we're finding that he's a lot involved, and he was much closer to Epstein than even the MAGA crowd, the MAGA cult members would have liked. So here we have a situation where Trumpism, in terms of domestic policies, attacking Somalis in the United States, but by extent, is also attacking Somalians. And on the international/foreign stage, Venezuela seems to be a target, but by extension, Dr. Vibe, Venezuela is an extension, and so is another country that I purposely named, which is Cuba. Because what we have to understand here is that, and I say this, Dr. Vibe, as I was telling you, I just finished watching the Netflix documentary, Surviving Black Hawk Down, where we hear perspectives of Somalians who survived and who were alive and present when back end of 1993, the episode of Black Hawk Down, which eventually gave the movie, occurred. Donald Trump is racist. Black MAGA would love to show us photos of Donald Trump with Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali and who knows which rapper and so forth. But the man's racism is blatant. And one of the things that come in far right parties is to always resort to racism and point out to immigration as the problem of all things, aka distract you base and point the finger at people they should hate. Trump did that um, end of last year in pointing to Haitians apparently eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, if I recall the city properly. And now it's regarding Somalis, aka people of the Somali ethnicity, but greatly uh, of the country of Somalia, who came to the United States as immigrants and as refugees since the 1990s, pointing out and attacking Somalis beyond Representative Ilhan Omar. And we can absolutely have differences with Ilhan Omar, notably in regards to Islam, but that's a different topic. She's being attacked as she is Somali, she is African, and she is black. And by extension, the entire Somali community in Minnesota, a blue slash democratic state of Governor Tim Walz. So you see, it kind of connects all the dots. We must not forget, of course, that Somalis being overwhelmingly Muslim, I mean, there is a growth of rejection of Islam, of awakening, of returning to African spirituality, of the Somali god, Wak, the god of fire, pre Islam, but overwhelmingly Muslim community. And here, Trump creating a dangerous situation, not just a targeting with ICE, people basically who have lived in the United States for decades being deported to a Somalia that they don't know. But furthermore, a situation in which we can easily imagine MAGA members going over there. So, yeah, we cannot ignore such. Yeah, we cannot ignore such. And in terms of Venezuela, well, it's quite simple. Under the claims of fighting drugs, but of course, he frees a drug, a drug dealer, president of a former country, under the claims of fighting drugs. What does Donald Trump do? It's about oil. It's about cutting the relation between China and Venezuela, which is greatly profiting, notably Cuba, as Cuba with the blockade that's still ongoing would be choke under a chokehold. So yeah, it can be quite dangerous because Trump also claimed that he would be a so-called peacemaker, not starting a new war, etc., etc. But when you look at his score in surveys of appreciation, like below the 30% and going further down, there's always the temptation of a new war.
Mm. There's so many different ways. I asked this the other day. How can a company just steal another country's tanker? Like, has the United States declared war on Venezuela?
Because they
No.
can. No, the United States has not. But they do it because they can. They do it because Congress is weak and refusing to stand up to Trump. Oh, yeah, they found some courage in terms of the Epstein files, sure. But we clearly see a Donald Trump who is acting, more and more politicians are saying, quite illegally. Um, I apologize, I forget the name of the brother who used to be the commander of the American force in the Caribbean, but he resigned following his disagreements with Pete Hegseth, as he refused to engage militarily against um, against the people, to kill the people who were basically who survived the U.S. attacks on the ships. And let's not get it twisted. Of course, there is drugs coming out of Venezuela. From what I read, it is overwhelmingly cocaine. Cocaine is not this number one killer on American streets when talking about drugs. It's fentanyl, which is coming from Mexico, of the base elements coming from China. Trump is not going to go do war on Mexico. He's not going to go do war on China. So Venezuela becomes an easy distraction, which is tied to that other country that is a, how do you call that, a rock in America's boots, aka Cuba. Um, but even though it's true, of course, that Venezuela and Cuba would not be able to succeed in war against the USA, it could still lead to loss of American lives. How many billions could be wasted? As I said before, the American empire, as every empire, is falling, is going down. It is the eventual fate of every empire. Obama was stepping on the brakes. Trump is stepping on the gas under the claims of saving this so called white Christian nation, him who is quite an antichrist type of character in terms of values and behavior.
Do you see the United States getting military involved in Venezuela? Like troops on the ground. Let me put it that way, because military could be bombs in the air, etc. What about troops on the ground?
Dr. Vibe, have you not learned in the last 10 years that making predictions around a certain the man could tweet at 3 in the morning that he loves Maduro and there's peace, just as he could tweet at 3 in the morning that he ordered an invasion of Venezuela. There's no predictability with this agent of chaos. The only thing you can be sure, as I've come to learn with Trump, it's not so much that you can be sure of unpredictability, is that the man is always looking for a way to make a dollar out of a situation. He's always looking at making a dollar. He's always looking at getting attention out of the situation. So whether it's war or peace, to use the title of Tolstoy, whether it's war or peace, one thing that comes out for sure is Donald Trump is seeking money and attention. I truly hope there's no war. Uh, you know, even as we are Pan Africanists, we must not forget that American soldiers obey orders as soldiers worldwide. They have families as well. They have friends. They have children. And if we are honest, there is a high percentage of those soldiers who happen to be our brothers and sisters, African Americans, just as African with American citizenship and Caribbeans with American citizenship. Why would we want a conflict in which our brothers and sisters, but also the average John and Mary who didn't choose to be born white, of Anglo-Saxon or Germanic background, etc., or Asian background, are sent to a country, Venezuela, that literally has done nothing to them just because of a man in the White House who was trying to distract and keep a hold on power. At the same time, I'm saying this, one of the things I detest about Western propaganda, because this is not just America, and this was very well highlighted in the Netflix documentary Surviving Blackout Down, is how they make such a big deal about 1, 10, 20, who knows, 100 or 3,000 Americans or Westerners dead, and yet you have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions, as we speak of Iraq, who are dead and nobody talks about them in the West. So no, we don't want, I do not support war on Venezuela. There is no reason, no cause for war. The intent of Trump would be regime change, but it's not even really regime change. It's access to natural resources in the same way as him claiming peace between Rwanda and Congo. America is getting beneficial agreements for those natural resources in order to do what? To counter China. Same thing in Venezuela and ricochet Cuba and Nicaragua, just as he did earlier in regards to the Canal of Panama, aka to curtail the progress of China. Curtail the progress, which has already been announced that China is definitely leading in terms of access to natural resources, rare earths, and artificial intelligence. So it's Venezuela is a pawn in a 3D chess game in which innocent civilians would be killed, just as American soldiers would be sent to death. But this is also where the message of the 6 Democrats, I think, congressmen and women, just as senators, including Senator Mark Kelly, comes to play in terms of the right to refuse to obey an illegal order. And in matters of illegal order, it is Congress that declares war. The American president does not solely declare war on its own. Even when you look at 1941, following December 7, Pearl Harbor, President FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, did go to Congress in order to proclaim the entrance of America in World War II. So, if war against Venezuela becomes a reality, let us hope that many soldiers, notably brothers and sisters who have nothing to do going to fight this white supremacist and capitalist war, that they refuse to obey orders, that they refuse to go kill innocents. And that sounds very much just like Black Hawk Down. 17 Americans killed because they were obeying orders, 300 to 500 Somalis killed, ultimately defending their nation home.
It always seems that we come back with 47 to these core things. Imperialism and immigration is I and I's.
Imperialism, capitalism, and racism.
Do we see war with Venezuela then? United States.
With a man like Trump, you can't predict it. That's the thing. I would not risk myself to say yes. With Trump, between the tweet that can come at any time of the night, I mean, he's a busy senior citizen on his Truth Social app, but as well, whoever is the last person to talk to him. You see, that's I mean, Americans, we're talking about African leaders, but look at the person Americans re-elected in the White House. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I am not mocking. I am not ridiculing. I don't even want to disenfranchise the vote of millions of Americans who voted for Trump, but they are literally getting what they voted for. They can't pretend they didn't know. It was already there before. And they clearly saw the zoo-like presidency that he was running. Zoo-like, clown-like, you name it.
Nice. Yes. The Somalis, and he was telling Ilhan Omar she should go back where she came from, and she said to him, I was born in America. Wow.
You know what it means. Wow. Donald Trump is of Scottish and German background. What else is of Scottish and German background? The KKK is of Scottish background, and the Nazi are a German background.
Ouch. All right, we'll keep it tight. We're going to go to our last story for today, and we'll be back in just a moment. Here we go.
Have you seen the doc that's got Netflix buzzing in 48 countries? Here's the scoop. Sean Combs' The Reckoning dropped December 2nd, 2025. A 4-part Netflix series executive produced by 50 Cent and directed by Alexandria Stapleton. It traces Diddy's rise with Bad Boy Records, his 2024 arrest, and his October 3rd, 2025 conviction for transportation to engage in prostitution. He's now serving over 4 years in federal prison. The series includes never-before-seen footage from 6 days before his arrest, which Netflix says was legally obtained, though Combs' team calls it unauthorized. Culturally, it's huge, topping charts in 48 countries and dethroning Stranger Things. But critics warn, public allegations aren't always confirmed facts.
So our final conversation piece for today's show, Diddy's Netflix documentary, 50 Cent's Revenge. Cesar?
That's the first thing I would say. But before engaging the documentary, two elements.
Oh, there we go. Your audio was a little bit muffled. We can hear you better now. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. No, it's a good documentary by 50 Cent, but he was the executive producer. The actual producer is actually a talented person regarding documentaries. I forget, but I think it was a woman. I forget her name. I'm sorry about that. However, we must be mindful of certain elements. Number one, to state the obvious, 50 Cent did not include in this documentary the mother of one of his children, aka Joy, who clearly was one of Diddy's women, aka she revealed that Diddy would fly her, I think, to Turks and Caicos or other places and pay her, what is it, $10,000, whatever the circumstances. 50 did not include that. Why? We understand why, but it will always be kind of something held against him in terms of claiming his masculinity, virility, but especially impartiality, because 50 is not impartial regarding Diddy, regarding Puffy. The other thing that we must truly realize, I would say, is that documentary made me realize that we were all victims of Diddy, because in what is implied, he has an involvement in the murdering of Tupac Shakur, to me, the greatest rapper, but also that he contributed to the murdering of Biggie, the second greatest rapper, if you ask me. We must also realize that he victimized all Black people who were fans of hip hop in that time frame, mid 90s. My hip hop is mid 90s, aka Snoop Dogg and Wu Tang, to the mid 2000, aka 50 Cent G Unit. That's my hip hop era. Older hip hop than that and later hip hop than that is not exactly my thing. But we were all victimized because I recall as a teenager the conversations and some of the divide, non-violent of course, but in terms of East Coast, West Coast, the type of rap that we prefer, the type of siding that we would do as we were being manipulated in this conflict created greatly for sales, greatly created for the attention to hip hop and the tragic nature. We tend to forget. Tupac and Biggie died, if I'm not mistaken, at age 25 years old. It is hard to believe that even, 30 years later, the impact. Tupac killed in 96, Biggie killed in 97, 6 months, September 96, March 97, 6 months from one another, and yet they were both friends. It is a tragic tale. Forget Shakespeare. I'm talking about some tragic Black, African-American tale. And with the third figure, someone who grew, according to the documentary, oppressed and constantly seeking validation, attention, the lack of a male figure. Dr. Vibe, as you talk about the importance of Black fathers, Black dads, we can see what not having had a Black father figure has caused a man such as Sean Combs in terms of growing up and his image of becoming a man. When you take some examples such as Mr. Still Your Girlfriend, him getting the girls, the women of other men. Well, I'm sorry. I have experienced that. It hurts. It's humiliating. But guess what? You actually should feel fortunate because no man can steal your woman if your woman doesn't want to go with him. Quality men have lost women. Meanwhile, trashy men, abusive men have had women who remain faithful. It's not so much Mr. Steal Your Girl. It speaks to the lure of fame, of fortune, of that environment to which, even though she was young, but she was still an adult, what's her name? Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie, revealed. It's the lifestyle, it's the desire to be close to Diddy, aka his money, his train of life, his fame, the glitter, the etc., etc. People knew. I remember I was a bouncer in my 20s. We knew about Diddy's freak-offs in Ottawa. We knew about Diddy's parties in New York. I have a close female friend who was a stripper. She had been asked to attend them. She refused each time because we knew what was happening there. This is the same type of thing when, you're a teenager, you're in your 20s, you're going to that block party or basement party, or you're going to chill with those guys.
Hold on just a second. I think we have someone calling you who wants to chime in. Ryan, are you there? Okay, Ryan, try calling in again, but Ryan might want to call in. So definitely, Ryan, try hanging up and calling in again. So continue, Cesar.
Yeah, I'm like, we know about those type of parties. We know about those type of environments. I often give an example to people. How come you don't see Denzel Washington in those type of drama? Because they know. They avoid them.
Okay.
They avoid them.
Let me have permission to interrupt. Ryan, can you hear us? Ryan? Ryan? Okay, Ryan,
test.
Okay, can you hear us, Ryan?
I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay.
No, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ryan.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, we can hear you, Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a bit of a delay, but I did want to chime in because I know the talk of Diddy, yes, the sexual deviousness is definitely disturbing, but it's more around how he runs his business that was more concerning for me. And really seeing how he treats people because of the fame, he's now able to manipulate and get people to do what he wants, but they don't benefit. They actually don't financially benefit. And it really did remind me of how Trump and the stories of him doing a lot of work or getting people to do work for him and then not getting paid, or the people around him also ending up in jail or worse. So it was very sad to see how Diddy actually runs his businesses. And it really did take down the image that I had of him as this successful. No, I mean, he was the voice of the 90s hip hop wise. And it's sad to see this kind of tear down of what we thought was respectable.
Cesar?
I respect what our brother Ryan just said, but I have to disagree humbly. And I will give the example of Trump. Trump abuses the people that he can abuse because ultimately he does pay some people to do his work. It's not that he doesn't pay everyone, it's the same with Diddy. Diddy, from what we saw in the documentary, but even from what we knew. So let's go back 20 years ago, late 90s, early 2000. I will only speak of what I know. But I am sure if anyone is in their 40s and older, they know 20 plus years ago, there was a time when they must have heard, why is this person signing to Diddy? Diddy doesn't pay his artists, or if he pays them, he doesn't pay them well. Yet he kept having people going to be his artist. So literally, it was known. I'm not in New York. I'm not a rapper. How are you going to tell me that I knew this in Ottawa? Being a bouncer in nightclubs, because we knew people talked. So this was no secret. And even Diddy changed his business scenario, but he kept having people. The lure, of fame, the fortune, the Diddy lifestyle. That's what drove them. It's the same as, I'll give a perfect example. We're talking about the Epstein file. Melinda French Gates revealed that one of the issues that led to the divorce that she had with Bill Gates was Jeffrey Epstein. She had an issue with Bill Gates still hanging and keeping as friends Jeffrey Epstein, despite everything that was known about him. So it's not, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is a pedophile, or I can't believe this guy mistreats his employees and doesn't pay them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe Donald Trump is racist and misogynistic. It is known. Let's flip that. When a young black man has a rap sheet, has gone to jail over drugs and everything, people don't act surprised. People guilt him even as he's trying to change. It's a matter of class and economics, in which no matter how he was mistreating his employees, as long as he was keeping away from jail, people kept going to him. This is the same conversation that we had regarding R. Kelly. People didn't just discover out of the blue that suddenly R. Kelly was mistreating and abusing young black girls. He purposely was not targeting white girls. Why? Because he knew. So you see what I mean? It's not like people don't know. So I totally get what Brother Ryan is saying. And for many people, there was a fall, a disillusion in regards to Diddy, but it is not the surprise many people make it seem to be. It was known, and it is a further reflection on what I always denounce in terms of entertainment as the number one cancer of the black psyche. We know, and they know. Look at Diddy's arrogance in that documentary. He thinks he is God walking on earth. He thinks he's above the law. Just as Trump. When you get away with so much over so long, how surprising it is that you become narcissistic, that you become perverse, and you think you are above everyone else. In the very documentary, those who were even close to him admitted to feeling like they participated in creating that monster. There is a psychoanalysis that we must do of Diddy's mindset as is being done in regards to Trump, but that psychoanalysis must send us back to the black community, back to what we prioritize. When I say entertainment as the number one cancer of the black psyche, it is not entertainment as a whole. I would not want to live in a world without entertainment. But there is a difference between, I give another entertainer, Josephine Baker, dancing with the banana belt in the 1920s. If that's the only image that you have of Josephine Baker, of course we should condemn her. But there is an evolution of Josephine Baker becoming an activist, becoming part of the resistance against the Nazi, and becoming a figure of the civil rights movement in the 60s in the US. Dr. Vibe, can you give me a quick 30 seconds? I just got a message. My wife forgot her.
No problem. No problem. While you're doing that, I'll read some of the comments.
Okay, go ahead. I'll come right back.
No problem. No problem. Okay. So, Black Nerd Talks, I see you're in the house. Says, haven't watched it yet. I'm very cautious of media that depicts Black people in a negative light because those media depictions have a trickle-down effect on the rest of us. You also say, I might check it out over the holidays based off conversations I've had with friends. Well, the Walamala, good to have you here, saying Diddy, one of the reasons for Tupac Biggie fallout. Well, Ryan said the call feature doesn't seem to be working. Ryan, are you still with us? Okay, he's not. It was more disturbing. He says it was more disturbing to me seeing how he does business. Reminds me of stories that you hear about 47. So that was a conversation piece you were chatting about during the time. A lot of hype, but only one person benefits. Ryan also says the same question would be for someone like 47 who okay, so let me catch you up on some of the comments, Cesar, that was made. All right, because a number of people have chimed in on this now. So Black Nerd Talks, who's a good black man, says, haven't watched it yet. I'm very cautious of media that depicts black people in a negative light, because those media depictions have a trickle-down effect on the rest of us. And anytime you want to comment, Cesar, you can go ahead. The Walamala says, Diddy, one of the reasons for Tupac Biggie fallout. Ryan had said, said the call feature was working, but he did explain, he did say it verbally. It was more interesting to me seeing how he does his business. Reminds me of stories you hear about 47. A lot of hype, but only one person benefits. Ryan also says the same question would be for someone like 47 who still do business with them working, that they may not get paid. It's an abuse of power. I think you've addressed that.
But at the same time, we must not forget, in a world of image and connections, for many people, having on the resume that they work with Diddy or Trump, even if they were mistreated, can be a gateway to something else. You just look at Trump in politics, how he sends some of his lawyers and attorneys who are not qualified, but they still take the job because of the connection. And I mean, let's be honest, we're talking about entertainment. Let's look at, what's the name? Ray J, Brandy's brother, and The Game, the former rapper who was with G Unit. More than 20 years later, they're still talking about having had sex with Kim Kardashian. If Kim Kardashian had disappeared following that sex tape, they wouldn't be talking about her. But because Kim Kardashian has brand recognition, global, billionaire, whatever it is, and we can disagree with the sexual nature, and including with Diddy and Trump, whatever vices that he has, including rape. Of course we can. But ultimately, it is a name that's known. And that's why these people keep going to work for them, keep mentioning them, keep being attached to them. We know this. It's a human nature problem, but also for us as Black people, a matter of Black consciousness that we still give value, and we still put these people on a pedestal, even though we know the things that they do wrong. Just as then with R. Kelly, as much as he is the greatest R&B singer, I have to be honest there.
Okay. Black Nerd Talk says Black men are regarded as morally bankrupt. Ryan says again.
But let's not forget accountability. When we have a Black community in which the so-called elite, the magnified elite, because I don't consider someone like Diddy or Jay-Z or Snoop as the Black elite that I look at. But how many people know about Robert Smith or Aliko Dangote? Or how many know about our Black PhDs who are notably involved? And I have a memory blank regarding his name, this young brother in robotics who is leading the field, notably in terms of AI. Young Black men and women in their 20s and 30s will never get the same spotlight as the entertainers, the musicians, the artists. So the moral bankruptcy of the few who have the projector on them ends up reflecting on the majority of us because of racism, because of slavery and colonization. But us as a community must also hold them accountable. This is part of the reason why, from the very start, I said congratulations to 50 Cent, because too many in our Black community are mad at 50 Cent for the documentary instead of being mad at Diddy for his actions. Not everything is because of the white man, but sometimes it is because of our own people, of ourselves. That's part of maturity, and that's part of us holding ourselves accountable.
Okay. More comments here. Ryan says Diddy was the gatekeeper to fame in hip hop, and right up to his last album took advantage of people. He also says,
quick correction, Diddy was one of the gatekeepers. There were other people. I'm thinking now of Master P. I'm thinking of oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? Janet Jackson's ex-boyfriend, Jermaine Dupri. I'm thinking of other names. But of course, he was such a big name. But it's the same as when we talk about Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein. The rumors about Harvey Weinstein were known for a long time, and yet he kept having female actresses going towards him. So there is a matter of choice that people make. Now, someone will want to criticize me. Oh, Cesar, it's easy for you to talk from where you're sitting. This and that. I have lost employment due to values and principles. I have said no. I have walked out of jobs. I have refused to participate or to tolerate certain behaviors. And I have been let go, or I have myself refused employment, even as the price was high. Dr. Vibe, I give you a quick example. Back in 2019, I was giving a training in an agency outside of Ottawa. I gave an example from when I was a bouncer in my 20s about how I let I resigned from employment from a nightclub that paid me very, very well. People hear a story like that, like, yeah, he's just talking. There were two people in during that day in that group. This is outside of Ottawa. I've never been in the city before. Two other staff, they did confirm the story. They remembered me from back then. They remembered me from more than 10 years ago. I didn't know them. They were just customers. So no, people have principles, and we have to be mindful. Diddy was one of the gatekeepers. People did make choices.
Okay. Continue on. We wonder where Diddy actually learned the behavior. It also sad to see what people do to get close to fame. He also says
I agree, but it's a lot explained in terms in the documentary about his mother, but also the environment from his father having been a drug dealer, from what he said, and a murder drug dealer, I should mention, when he was a child, to the company's mother was keeping. Of course, I'm saying all this, but you know, 50 Cent did a great job on executively producing this. 50 Cent, get rich or die trying, survived nine bullet wounds, etc., etc. I mean, uh, what other musical genre? I mean, I do not know. I'm asking, what other musical genre do we have? People will get shot, will get killed like this. I know rock and roll, people dying of drug overdose, but I'm talking about targeted violence. It is ultimately something that we must address. We see the fall of R. Kelly, the greatest R&B singer. We see the fall of Diddy, arguably the greatest hip hop producer. I think it would be fair to say that, because Jay-Z is not a hip hop producer. But you see what I mean? So we have to have a conversation within the community, not in terms of what white people, the media, etc. No, no, no. A conversation within the Black community at large, and learn from these experiences. Because the question becomes this one: what will be next? Bill Cosby, R. Kelly. We can even say the fall of Will Smith, as we saw with Jetta, and now we see we see Diddy. So yeah.
well, okay, I'm gonna okay. Let's do some more comments here. Ryan says a psychological analysis definitely needed on how we let celebrity influence the Black mind.
I
Because and
absolutely agree.
Black Nerd Talk says because we don't have control over media.
I
Black Nerd Talk,
relatively disagree on there. Oprah, Tyler Perry, there was Michael Jackson. Black people do have more uh, control over media than they care to admit. The problem that comes is also what we choose to accept. I give you a perfect example. As an educator in high school, how many times do I get Black youth talking about the parents telling them to read, but they never see their own parents read? They hear the parents telling them to watch documentaries to educate themselves. Meanwhile, the parents are watching what I call BCKs, brain cell killers, such as, I don't know, Love and Hip Hop,
Pop the
and
Balloon.
only Pop the Balloon, or only football, NFL, and basketball, etc., soccer. It starts also in the home. We do have control. We can turn off the TV. We can look for better content and thus send a message. Dr. Vibe, we had couple of months ago regarding Tyler Perry. Black is not Black is Beautiful. The show about black hair, but in which Tyler Perry, what is it? Spike Lee addressing Tyler Perry's production as coonery, and Tyler Perry basically saying he doesn't care. He's doing this for money. He's doing this and he's employing black people. We have choices. We must end this rhetoric of thinking that we are hapless victims who have no control over anything and nothing. I give you an example. My own daughter, we only allowed her to watch this Disney production, Elsa, the white girl with blonde hair or blonde hair or whatever it is. We only allowed it after she got to watch Moana. So she got to see a Disney princess hero who looks like her before she saw the white version of a princess. We have choices. We cannot keep passing as hapless victims of society while in 2025 we choose to consume music that says the N-word left and right. We choose to buy the $200, $300 pairs of Jordan and not put it into a DNA test to find out our African roots. We choose to go all over Europe and Asia and South America, but that continent called Africa, no vacations there. You see what I mean? We have a lot of control.
So Black Nerd Talk says more so I'm referring to media and academic depictions of us as morally bankrupt. I do agree, though, all solutions must come from us. And Ryan says, so true. I had no idea that the backstory with his mom. I wonder how much of Bad Boy still he owns. A lot of behind the scenes that will come out when we follow the money.
Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely. Brother Ryan is, of course, right. Yes.
Sir, that was quite the finish off of a show today. That was anything you want to finish off with the whole documentary, because I know there may have been some other things you wanted to get in before we had some people interact, which was a beautiful thing.
Well, no, I would basically say hopefully it doesn't become just another documentary. There was a documentary regarding R. Kelly. I don't remember if there was one regarding Bill Cosby, but we must celebrate the rise of Black people who succeed in their line. But we must also learn from the fall of those who fail. I remember I was reading about this rapper, Bobby Shmurda, and about how he got busted, him and other, I'm forgetting the name, some of these rappers who literally were rapping about murders that they committed. The issue should not so much be that why would they be so stupid to be rapping about the murders that they committed, but about why are they committing murders?
Yeah,
what kind of community are we having, and what kind of Black children, teenagers, young and older adults are we having who become predators to the community itself, predators to Black children, Black women, and other Black men, pointing the finger at the evil whites, the evil white Arabs, white Europeans, white Jews, the Asians, eventually we'll be pointing fingers at the aliens. Meanwhile, we are still a Black community overwhelmingly represented in poverty and crime, dancing, praying, and eating. Those are cliches, but cliches that we see far too often, and even ourselves, when we depict ourselves, too often that's why we tend to show about ourselves. Ultimately, FUBU, for us, by us, the solutions are within us. This is notably what our great leaders, heroes and sheroes, have taught us over decades, over centuries.
All right. Well done. So as we close it down for today, some final comments from Ryan. We need a town hall to really highlight how Black men are being targeted and taken down. The Michigan coach Sharon Moore story is so sad. That's a whole other conversation. We don't even
My brother,
want. No.
from what I understand, he's not a victim. Not from what I understand. Just because a man is black does not mean that by default he's a victim. I don't care the skin color of your wife. His wife is white. But when you choose to, from what I understand, from what I read, from what I know so far, when you choose to be unfaithful and then you have abortion and potentially harassment or violence, oh, please, let us not by default, let us not, we are men. Let us not by default fall into the trap of thinking just because the person is black, therefore they are a victim. We have good black people. We have black people we need to highlight, we need to bring forward, but we have black people that we need to also hold accountable because they become enemies to the community, they become enemy to the race itself. That's why. Did I know about this brother before the history came out? Of course I didn't. I don't watch. I don't watch NFL, but now I know his name. Just as what's his name? Shay Shannon Sharp. There you go. He became global mainstream because he couldn't resist a 19-year-old young white girl. What would our ancestors be thinking? For too many of our brothers, and Dr. Vibe, I'm getting heated, but you said it. It's another conversation, but I will just end it here. For too many black men, and I am absolutely saying black men, I am not a feminist, I'm not some misandrist, male hating, whatever you call it. You know me. Pan-Africanism. However, for too many black men, the biggest success of civil rights and decolonization has been access to white women. Frantz Fanon was writing this, and he died in 1960 or 61. For too many black men, the biggest success of civil rights and decolonization has been access to white women. And this is a result of so many of the tragedies that we see in our black community and among too many rich and famous and not even rich and famous black men's lives. And
Well,
I've seen this firsthand as a bouncer in nightclubs. I've seen brothers who were literally mentally slaves to the white vagina. It's not even about the white woman as a person. It is the lure, the desire, the obsession of sex with a white woman, of ownership of a white woman. It's a result of slavery, colonization, but ultimately of inferiority complexes.
all right. So let's say Ryan said this. Yeah, he says, Ryan says, yes, we need to spotlight true, amazing black men that the media ignores. And then the president of your fan club says, great show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you always. And Michelle and I, we connected. We're on Facebook together.
All
Thank
right.
you, Michelle.
Fantastic. That is good. I'll just end off here. Someone who I respect very much says, many black men who have a downfall is one of three things: sex, gambling, or alcohol / drugs. One of those three things. One of
Yes.
those.
Yeah. I wouldn't put. I agree totally with the sex, but I would absolutely say, the three cancers of the black psyche: entertainment. As sex is too much. Sex is too often seen as entertainment. Entertainment, consumerism, and religion. White religions, aka the rejection of your own spirituality, aka self worth. It's a psychoanalytical mindset in which, as you value yourself more and you understand better where you come from, that you stand on the shoulders of kings and queens. The crown does not make you a king or a queen. The value and your behavior, they show it. My daughter is 4 years old. She will tell you the three rules from her dad: security first, good listening, and good behaviors.
There you go. and the day will come where we'll have her on the show. Usually she just pops in. Maybe we need to give her a seat and have her come in. All right.
You want to see the Santa Claus?
Really good. So as always, if you want to get hold of Cesar, email president at Roots and Culture Canada, Facebook Cesar Remy Emery, and good to have Michelle chatting with you on the Facebook. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on. Please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Plus, if you want to find out more about me, go to taplink.cc/the drvibeshow.com. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website, the drvibeshow.com. How do we end it off? As always, we do this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim farther. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And as always, make it better. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith while good. And we'll catch you soon.
Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told you, Dr. Vibe.
No. I welcome. I'm really good to have you here. I didn't want to you were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, but
In an world created by whites, dominated by whites, run by whites. And you're a billionaire, bro. FYI, I don't. It's probably the first time of the year that I use the word bro.
yes, it is. That's the first time, as long as I've known you, you used it.
My daughter would laugh.
But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.